Well, thanks so much, Ryan, for joining me this morning. I'm sure this will be a really interesting conversation. Your career has been amazing, especially for someone as young as you. You've really done a lot of things, touched on a lot of different areas in corporate America. And so I'd like to hear a little bit more about your journey, like taking back to maybe even your college days, since you're so close to that, and how you decided, to go down this career path that you did. Was it family influences, people around you, a mentor? I just would love to hear some insight into how you made these decisions.
Gail, that sounds great. And thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. And yeah, I feel like college is a good place to start from. So I went to the University of Notre Dame out in Indiana. And when I got to college, I truly did not know what I wanted to do. I guess a lot of people fall into that boat, but I really didn't. And I spoke with my parents a bit, any upperclassmen, older friends I had, and settled on becoming an accounting major because what I realized was because I don't know what I want to do, if I study accounting here, I can open doors for myself down the road. So that's what I did in college. And after college, graduated, moved back to Philadelphia, where I worked at PwC, one of the big four accounting firms.
Mhm.
And I think pretty quickly on realized that this was not going to be my long time career. But, that being said, I stayed for about 3 years and decided at that point, okay, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to make a transition. Again, didn't know what I wanted to do, which is kind of a theme here. I went to Villanova, got my MBA, and while I was there, got connected with a couple folks at J&J, and my dad was actually a marketing professor, and so I kind of had in my head
Oh,
somewhere,
wow.
yeah, I somewhere in my head I kind of had, oh, okay, I should give marketing a shot. My dad obviously likes it, and so yeah, long story short, then I got connected with J&J, started at Johnson and Johnson. Eventually, that spun off into Kenvue, and I started missing my financial career. I
Mhm.
didn't necessarily want to be a public accountant, but I did like working in the broader financial services industry. I liked working with clients, and literally, then if I had kind of let some friends know that I was poking around, and via a friend got connected with one of the founders of my current company, had an intro call, not expecting much of it. And, a couple months later, I was starting my new job at Gray Fox Wealth Advisors. And I can confidently say this is the first time that I feel like this is something I'm going to do for the rest of my career. And I feel like not to get super deep right away here, but a lot of people definitely feel pressure to figure out what it is you're going to do for your life at an early age. And for me, I think looking back, it was really nice to kind of try a couple different areas and then realized what it was that I liked, what I wanted to do. I liked the financial services industry. I liked working with clients while at PwC. Again, not necessarily the public accounting aspect, but now as an advisor, I'm in a role where I'm in the financial services industry. I'm working with clients and, feeling like I can provide value for folks. So it makes sense where I ended up.
It's such an awesome story. And I love the fact that you kind of didn't know what you wanted to do. You went down a path where you got a lot of really good foundational experience. And then when you did finally find an environment where you felt you brought value and also it felt good to be doing that job, you're like, okay, this is it. But I
Exactly.
will caution you, you never know.
That's
I
true.
like the fact that you kind of came through that with a very open process. That's kind of how I've lived my whole life. I still don't know what I want to do when I grow up.
Right.
Um, but it's a great journey along the way. And you learn a lot of stuff and you provide amazing services, I'm sure, for people as a wealth manager and advisor. So that's fantastic.
Yeah.
I want to dig a little bit more into because you and I met at the allergy conference in San Antonio, Texas, a couple of years back.
Yes.
And it's interesting how, in my life anyway, reflecting back on so many people that I've met that are incredible people doing amazing things, it's just interesting how there's a certain connection that you get with certain people, and there's an energy there, there's an exchange of energy, and then well, we don't necessarily have something to do in business right now, but maybe in the future that will come. And so we've stayed in contact for 3 years, just
Yep.
staying up to date, me finding out where you've been bouncing around and you kind of following along some of the things that we're doing. And I just want to go back to that meeting in San Antonio because you were heading up the allergy group at J&J at the time. And it was an amazing group. We got to meet a lot of those people. Um, Tell me a little bit more about working in corporate America. I had a chance to do it briefly, so I got a taste, but I'd love to hear your perspective on that.
Yeah, no, that's I'll touch on our meeting real quick if that's okay too, Gail. I
Sure.
I was thinking about that when you asked me to come on here. I thought to myself, huh, it's pretty, well, I don't know if funny is the right word, but that we met in San Antonio, and obviously I'm doing something completely different now. But to your point, I know we had it was great getting to meet you and the whole team, and I know we went out to dinner down there as well. And I remember telling some of my Kenview colleagues afterwards, hey, I met Dr. Gale and Joy and their whole team. And I was very excited. I had this energy, and I know, like you said, it didn't really end up working out at the time, but I guess there's a lesson in there as well that when you feel that energy and a good connection with someone professionally, always stay in touch. You never know when down the road it might make sense to work together. And circling back now to your question about corporate America, because now I can kind of speak on both sides here, being at two big
Mm-hmm.
companies in PwC and then J&J slash Kenview versus now being at a smaller company with about 10 employees. I think, being especially at PwC as a young associate, you're kind of a cog in the wheel for lack of a better term. And not that that's breaking news or anything, but for example, I could be working on a giant audit and be responsible for one tiny line in the entire audit, and working with
Oh,
someone
wow.
at the client who is also pretty low level there, so you don't necessarily always feel like what you're doing is super important. I know that might have not come off correctly, but kind of that cog in the wheel feeling. And then kind of shifting gears to where I am now as an advisor, with a smaller company, I'll say there's a little bit more autonomy, a little bit more freedom to, schedule meetings as I please, or, work with the type of folks that, I want to work with. So I have a lot more, I'll say, control over my day and time. And like for me personally, it was a great learning experience to be at PwC, met a lot of great people that I am, still in touch with or still connect with. I have a few really good friends from PwC. The same can be said for my time at J&J and Kenview. But that being said, corporate America, it works really well for some folks, and I wouldn't say I'm not in corporate America now, but I'm probably not in corporate America like most people think of. And what I would say is that making that transition, I've realized, okay, I've kind of found out where I want to be. The big company kind of rising up the ranks wasn't necessarily the right path for me. But that being said, because people ask me frequently, oh, would you go back? And for me now, no, I wouldn't. But kind of touching on what I said earlier, I wouldn't change anything. In fact, a lot of times, as whether we're interviewing or meeting current college students or young professionals, I'll say, if you're torn between going the corporate route or going a different route or working for a small company startup, there are a lot of benefits in going that big corporate America route, especially early on. Number one, you're going to meet a ton of people. Number two, you're probably going to learn a lot. You're probably going to be in a formal training program, something that a lot of places aren't able to offer. So there are a lot of pros and cons to each. I don't regret any of my time that I spent at either of those companies, but again, it kind of led me down the path that I'm on, and now I'm really happy to be where I am.
Yeah, that's great. I want to just pick up on a couple of things that you mentioned there. I think working, especially when you come right out of school in a structured environment, is probably really a good thing to do to lay that foundational layer So you
Yes.
get used to, okay, there's a work day, there's actually structure to it. I need to accomplish certain things. And I
Right.
think you're held accountable in
Right.
those, in a
Right.
larger environment.
Exactly.
Some people fit really well into that model, but others I think just don't, like me.
Right. Right.
um, like you, like I could have never been in the army. I think about that
Right.
all the time. It's like, oh my God, I would have failed so miserably because, yeah, there are rules and we can stick to the rules, but I think you use different parts of your brain as you go out into the private sector and you have to scramble. You really have to scramble. So you have to create that structure to your day. You have to be self motivated to be successful, right?
Right.
And
Right.
it's very different. I think a lot of people like the structure and security of being in a large corporation. That was just
Right.
never for me. And it's interesting to hear you say kind of the same thing. You know,
Yes.
it's a different type of freedom to grow, I think, but it's not
It
for
is.
everybody.
It is. No, I agree completely.
Yeah. And then there was something else that you mentioned as well, which I can't really remember.
Let me think.
But
Uh, Training?
training
No.
is great. I mean, that you can get in a structured environment.
Right.
That's, you know, and learning, I think, from other mentors and then taking that knowledge. But like you did say, you went on and now you structure your own day and you wouldn't want to go back to the other thing. And I think that's great, especially since you now have a family, a budding, growing family.
Yes.
So that's another thing I want to talk about because I've never been good at balance, balancing life because this is life to me. Oh, I know what it was. I remember.
Yeah.
Um, you said you have no regrets, and I feel the same way. I think that is such an important concept. And maybe it's that feeling when you're stuck in a job, a structured job. Maybe we can help some people break loose.
Yeah.
Um, and you get that sense of drudgery showing up to work every day. Oh my God, it's another day. It's only Monday.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah. Yes.
maybe that's an internal signal that you might need to grow a little and explore. It's scary. I think a lot of people stay because of fear. They're afraid to take that leap, and there's going to be tough times, you
Right.
know. But there is no free lunch. You no pain, no gain, as we say in surgery. Um,
That's right.
and
That's right.
so yeah, I when you said that, I thought, that's a really good barometer for people. Like, if you're not thriving and growing and feeling good and using your creative talents, you might want to, take that as a signal that maybe there's something better out
Right.
there.
Right. Right. No, absolutely. And I will add too, because I realized I sort of brushed through my career path piece, but along the way, I when I met my now wife when I was still working at PwC at the time, she very much encouraged me. I think she could tell pretty early on that I wasn't totally happy with what I was doing and was looking for something new. And she also helped encourage me to, my next step was getting my MBA at Villanova full time. She encouraged me to, hey, take the leap, do something different. She was actually just starting law school at the time. So she was kind of going down a similar path of having worked for a couple years and then making a career change, going to law school, and then coming out on the other side. So, obviously not everyone's in that exact scenario, but having my, again, now wife, girlfriend at the time, kind of on my side, pushing me to, hey, I can tell this isn't what you want to be doing. Let's do something about it. It was a nice reinforcement and made me realize, okay, yes, I can. It is scary to your point. I think fear is definitely a big factor as people, are in careers or roles that they're not exactly excited to be doing. But there's something to be said about taking that leap. And for the most part, if you and I can say this from PwC, I know countless examples of this happening. If you take a leap or try something new and it doesn't work out, as long as you haven't burned any bridges, you can typically
Right.
always return to where you were before.
Right. And that's another important concept. Don't burn any bridges. I think
Yes.
relationships really are the key to just navigating life's speed bumps. You know,
Yes.
I love your story, the whole story, even, the fact that your girlfriend slash wife slash partner, soulmate, encouraged you to take that leap. I think that's
Hmm.
really important. A lot of people don't have that kind of support, but whether
Right.
it's family or, a significant other, I think that definitely does help. We've touched on something that I talk about and think about a lot, and that is people get paralyzed by their fear.
Right.
And this is what I love about your story. You didn't let fear hold you back, right? And
Yes.
I used to have this incredible fear of flying, and then I got my first consulting job, and guess what? It was in Europe.
Right.
And I'm thinking, okay, this is going to
And
be
time to
interesting.
fly. Yeah.
Yeah, I really, really wanted to do it. So it's always kind of that balance between fear and desire that helps you cross the chasm. What do you do to kind of like when there are things that kind of raise those feelings of fear? What do you do? Like, do you exercise? How do you get past that? Do you talk to people? I'd love to hear that because I'm sure having that first child is also a scary thing.
Yes. Yeah. So, and first of all, I also used to be very afraid of flying. And actually, the other day, my son who just turned 3, I told him we were going to go on an airplane soon, and he said, "No, I don't want to go on an airplane." And I thought to
Oh my
myself,
gosh.
"Oh no, 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 not you too." And I don't think he truly knew what he was. Once we get up there, I think he'll be fine. But yeah, I have, I think, sort of overcome my fear. I don't get really sweaty and anxious like I used to, but
Yeah, me too. Me too. I've flown all over the world and I actually really enjoy it because it's disconnect time for me. It's like I feel
yes.
like nobody can hurt me while I'm, off the grid.
Yeah, and to circle back to your main question, so I've played sports my whole life. Played through college and then played like adult men's leagues after college, which was great. And having kids now, I because those are typically at dinner time or on the weekends, I've kind of stopped playing my sports. But to answer your question, continue to exercise. And it's funny, I was never a huge runner, but my wife kind of got me into running. I guess like seven ish, 6 or 7 years ago. So, and now I've done a bunch of races. I've done triathlons, and for me, I think because growing up, I was always playing sports or doing something. It was
Mhm.
always a fully structured day. And I know you brought this up earlier, but for me, it's building a structured day around, like, I have my blocks for work, I have my blocks for family time, and then I have that block for myself of exercising, working out, whatever that might be. And for me, whether I have a busy day ahead, whether I have to be somewhere with the kids, I always work out first thing in the morning. And whether it's music or throwing on a somewhat mindless podcast on on my AirPods, it becomes a way for me, to your point, to disconnect, kind of forget about everything else that's going on, forget about any issues that I have to deal with that day. And it's really my me time to recharge. And when I'll kind of tie some pieces together here. When I first started and was at PwC, and a couple months in, as things started to get really busy and I started working late nights, and I realized, oh, I'm struggling to find time for myself during the day. I was not exercising as much because I was working till 11 p.m. or midnight, whatever it might
Yeah.
be. So I kind of made a pact with myself. I'm like, okay, I know that I feel crappy if I don't exercise. And I was never an early morning person, but I just kind of made the switch one day. I told myself, all right, if I want to do this, I have to be a morning person. So I kind of shifted, became a morning person, started doing morning workouts, and haven't really turned back since. So that's kind of what I do to unplug, unwind, let myself recharge, and then get home and it's all right, quickly get something to eat. The kids are getting up soon, get the lunches ready, get all of them out the door. But it becomes a fire drill pretty quickly. But at least for me, I know that I've had my time to relax, so I'm usually recharged and ready to go for the chaos that ensues.
I love that. That's very much how I try to structure my day, although it disintegrates quite often.
It does. It does.
It does. I mean, life gets in the way sometimes, but I think giving yourself permission, and that's probably the best advice we can actually put out there, giving yourself permission to actually carve out that block for yourself, even an hour, does
Yeah.
makes such a difference in terms of your body, your health, your mental acuity, productivity during the day. There's a lot that happens to the body when you exercise and listen to music or,
Right.
whatever that is, meditate, yoga, Pilates,
Yes.
anything physical is great. Something as simple as walking is also great. I'm not a good
Yes.
stretcher because there's no action in stretch. That's what I'm trying to learn, but
Right. Right.
um, I think 1 hour of exercise me time first thing in the morning is fabulous.
Yeah.
So
And
thank you for that.
yeah, and to your point too, and to bring it back to the fear of flying, but I always think about help do your own mask before you do your kids or someone else's, and I kind of feel like I think that way with my exercising and recharging. It's all right. I am not going to be the best husband or best dad I can be if I'm not at least taking care of myself to some extent so that I feel good. And I'm sure if I, miss a day or a few days, my wife would be like, "Hey, like what's wrong? Like why are you in a strange mood?" And it's probably, "Oh, wait, you missed a workout or you didn't exercise today," something like that. So I always think of the airplane mask, like put yours on first and then do everyone else's. And I guess some people might think that sounds selfish, but again, for me, I know that I won't be the best version of myself if I don't do that. So I make it a point.
I think that is the biggest thing keeping people from doing it is feeling guilty
Yeah.
or feeling like you're selfish or whatever. But I would say the opposite. I think if you don't take care of yourself, who will? you
Right.
know and
Right.
and then as you age, things just start to happen, and you've got to stay healthy. It's like the primary thing we need to do for
Yes.
ourselves and for all of those around us. And so yeah, that's great. I want to just shift gears a little bit
Yes.
and talk about a little bit more in regards to your family life. And I think we're all pretty good at working, but
Mhm.
I personally am trying to really work on the balance part. I've got the exercise and I eat a really healthy diet, so I focus on those things. It's work, but I do it. I've been doing that for my whole life, really, because I was a gymnast when I was young, and it's just an integral part of my life. But
Right.
I think taking time off is something I find very challenging to do. It's never been structured into my work routine, like having weekends or anything like that.
Right.
And I'm trying to be more cognizant of actually doing that, actually blocking out time. It's the same way that you mentioned that you're doing it during your day. For me,
Right.
it's important to spend time with people that I really care about who may not, you know, be in the best health, or they may be older and they may not be here as long. So I'm really trying to focus on doing that. You have a wonderful budding family,
Hmm.
and I just can't imagine that there's much downtime.
There, there's not.
Oof.
There's not.
And your wife works too, right?
She does. She actually, so our youngest is 6 months old, and so she just went back to work today, actually. So today's our first day with both of us working and all three kids.
Oh my.
So it's interesting. I know two of them are sick today, so it was a rough start, rough start to her return to work. But yes, a growing family indeed.
And who stays with the kids during the day?
So they go to daycare. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's
Yeah.
where you're going to pick up a lot of germs.
Yes, yes, we are. Yes, our house is probably like a petri dish of just all sorts of germs at all time. We try to keep it as clean as possible and clean hands and faces and noses for that matter. But you know, there are always germs in our house.
Yeah, it is one of the reasons that I'm so motivated to, really keep going and growing this company, because I think it's really not even seasonal anymore. People get sick all the time. And I think we all can just be healthier,
Yes.
focusing on cleanliness, obviously, and a good diet and exercise. So three great takeaways
Yeah. And
so far.
yeah. And Gail, I know you were kind of hinting at before I keep sidetracking, but on the piece regarding downtime, I don't know if you wanted me to touch on that at all, because I do have
For
some thoughts
sure.
there as well. So and back to your question about corporate America. So I will say one of the big differences is, when I was at J&J or Kenvue or PwC for that matter, if I took a week vacation or took a day off or whatever that might be, because it's such a big company, because there's such big teams, I could pretty much unplug. I mean, I would maybe monitor email to make sure nothing urgent was happening, but for the most part, someone was there to cover, and I could truly take off. Now, being an advisor, I do have a team, of course, but you're also kind of running your own book with your own clients. I do find that even when I do take a day off or when I do go somewhere with my family, I'm always, and because we can do this now, I always have my phone and I'm always looking at my emails. And if something even slightly urgent comes up, I'm typically answering right away, which I don't necessarily think is the worst thing, but to your point, it does make it difficult on this side of the career path to truly unplug and unwind. And it's something that I've chatted with my wife a good amount about it as well. Just hey, like even when we go to the park, if my phone buzzes, I'm typically whipping it out right away to
Mm.
see who emailed me or who texted me, just in case it's something work related. So I will say, and I agree with you, it's really difficult to find that downtime, even as a family, when I know that, it could be a client on the other end who has an urgent question or who needs something. So, there's one of I'll call it a downside, but again, it comes with its own pros and benefits as well. But it is something that I'm cognizant of. And I'll probably, I've been in this role for close to 2 years. I'll probably get better as time goes on. But I think part of it is just the fact that, you're not that I'm on my own. I keep saying this, like we do have a team, an awesome team here, but I am directly responsible, for my clients. So it's something that I definitely battle with, but I'm trying to get a little better with that.
Yeah, that's very much like me. From the surgical training, we had beepers back then, right? And
Right,
my beeper
right.
would go off, I don't know, like 50 times in 10 minutes.
Yeah,
And I was trained, honestly, on that system to where the longer you wait, the more work that piles up. It just gets worse. And my email box is the same way. People look at my inbox and
right.
they go, "Oh my God,
I'm sure. I'm sure.
what happened here?"
Yeah,
And it is a matter of prioritizing and understanding like which calls are really urgent and that you need to answer right away, and those that aren't. I kind of see technology as a gift because it gave us the freedom to take call outside the hospital,
right,
right? We didn't have to sleep in the hospital anymore. We could actually take call from home as long as you were within a certain distance of the hospital.
right,
So I
right.
saw it as freedom. And now it's just gotten so out of control. I'm trying to figure out a way to really manage it. Um, it's 2 hours of emails in the morning, another 2 hours in the evening. It's just really out of control. I hope that they turn off email. I think that would be so fabulous.
Yeah,
Um, because it is overwhelming and I think it causes a lot of stress for people. They are constantly on their phones, they're forgetting how to have conversations. you know um it's it's really sad to kind of watch this happening, but I think
yes,
there's a chance. I mean, you're a great example of young people who understand the challenges that life brings, and you're doing a great job balancing work life. You found a job that you like. You've got a wonderful family. It's just such an uplifting conversation. You're like the definition of the American dream. So I'm
Thank you.
thrilled to see it still alive and well.
Yes.
And again, appreciate so much your time. Anything else that you'd like for us to cover that you think
Um,
might be helpful for people?
yeah, I'm just trying to think if there's anything that I didn't. I guess I would just add too, because it's kind of related to the whole unplugging, unwinding, like family aspect. Like I mentioned, my wife and our three kids, and this will mean something different for every single person who hears it. But for us, our faith is really important for us. It's very prominent in our lives. And again, I'm not suggesting anyone go convert to this religion or that religion, but I do think that having something that we believe in as a family has been, really beneficial for us. For one, it does provide us time to go gather with kind of a different community that we don't see aside from once a week. That's actually the only time really where my phone is off or like completely on do not disturb. So that faith aspect as well is something that my wife and I each grew up with, and is something that we both take seriously, and I think has helped us a lot get to where we are. And when there are, crazy nights where we slept for less hours than we should have the night before, and we're working late that night, just taking a deep breath and thinking about, again, some higher power is really helpful for each of us and our family.
Oh, I love that you added that in. I think it's so important. And again, like you said, it's non-denominational, right? It's no matter what you believe in, it's really important to have a guiding light and
Right,
understand
right,
there's something much bigger than any of us. Like
right.
that vision of you working on the one line of the gigantic spreadsheet,
Yes,
that is kind of what we're all like on this planet.
yes,
We get a
yes,
very short amount of time to be here, really. Um,
yes, yeah,
and you got to make the most of it. And by that I don't mean the most of it going out partying and and winding up on the floor somewhere unconscious.
right, right,
You
right.
everybody has a purpose for being here. Every single person has a purpose, and finding that purpose is the key to living a happy and hopefully healthy life. So thank you for sharing that too. I think that's really a great perspective.
Yeah.
Refreshing conversation, Ryan.
Yeah, this is refreshing. It's always nice to chat through some of this. And hey, even for me, like I said, with the kids being sick today and having a bit of a hectic morning into the afternoon, it's nice to talk about this and remind myself. And even as I shared that last point, I'm like, okay, this is all just part of the journey. Everything's okay, right? Nothing drastic is wrong. We're all healthy. Well, just despite the common colds or ear infections that kids have, we're all relatively healthy, and very thankful.
Yeah, me too. Exactly. I will share one last thought um, about the fear of flying.
Oh yeah,
Because
please do.
I didn't realize that we both had that in common.
Yes,
But as you know, now I fly to New Zealand very frequently, and I do a lot of work down here with incredible people. It was the one thing I had to conquer to really expand my life in just so many ways. But
right.
I'll never forget, it was right after the airports opened after 9/11,
Hmm.
and I had to fly from San Jose Airport to Los Angeles. And it was one of the very first flights out of the airport. And I remember getting on the plane, it was Southwest Airlines, and there were only like 5 people on the plane.
Right. Oh wow.
And I know. And I sat on that plane and I was like, okay, like what's the worst that could happen?
Right.
Right. And
Right.
I
Right.
and I just I was really kind of a bit of a wreck. And I said, seriously, I asked myself, what's the worst that can happen? And then I just reflected and said, I've had a great life. I've known some amazing people. I'm okay with that.
Mhm.
I'm just okay. So I think having that faith that you have a purpose in life and you're driven and you're productive and you have an amazing family and friends is the best that we can do. So appreciate you sharing all of that with me this morning. And I know a lot of people are gonna get inspiration from your story.
Yeah, yeah, of course. Like I don't know if I've said this, and thank you for sharing that about I'm not sure how I'd feel if I were on a flight with only five other people. I'm sure that was a surreal feeling. And yeah, just to add, kind of to start putting a bow on it, but I truly, I don't, no one's path, no two paths are the same, is what I was trying to get to. So, especially for younger folks, I feel like, don't think that this decision you make now, like even something like picking a major, yes, it's very important, but there are opportunities down the road to make career changes, go into different paths. There are opportunities to switch industries. A lot of that just comes down to you putting in the work to make it happen.
Absolutely. And again, keep your mind open and understand that there's a much bigger picture out there, and you do have a purpose in life. Everybody does. Big, small, doesn't matter. Just make
Yes.
sure that it feels good while you're doing it.
Yes, absolutely.
And
No,
you
I
enjoy
agree.
it.
This has been great. It's nice to talk about this. It doesn't happen. Like I said, I recharge, I exercise, I have my headphones in, and my wife and I chat, but we don't always have time for these types of conversations. We've tried to have more of them recently, which is good. It's something that, I think is important.
Especially with kids and a busy life. So yeah, I
Yes.
appreciate your
Yes.
time so much, Ryan, and I hope we get to do this again.
Yes.
Whenever you have things that you think might be interesting for other people to learn something from, because as my team started to tell me to start a podcast, I was like, why? And
Right.
they're like,
Right. Right.
so
Right.
many amazing people, which is true. So many amazing people, and they have incredible, solid information that people would find valuable. And I agreed to do this only based on the fact that I would bring people who I really enjoy and who I learn from to other people. So I really appreciate you helping me out with that.
Yeah, well, thank you, Gail. I appreciate you asking me to come on. I'll admit this was my first podcast. I was pretty excited when I got the email asking to be on the podcast. I knew there would be some compliance things I'd have to sort through, but I definitely got a big smile and thought, oh wow, this is pretty exciting. And to your point, one of the first things I thought was, even if like one or two people get something positive out of this, then it
Yeah.
was absolutely worth it.
Yeah, I agree. And I know people will get a lot of joy from listening to this, and that's important too. I love bringing joy to people's lives. So thank
Yeah.
you again, Ryan, and I hope everybody at home gets well quickly. I hope you don't get sick.
Uh,
We know the secret to that. Clean your nose,
yeah.
keep your nose clean.
Yes. No, thank you, Gail. I will absolutely have to keep all five noses clean for the time being as best we can. But no, thank you so much for having me on. This has been great. And like always, it's great to see you, and it's been great to stay in touch.
Likewise. Thanks so much, Ryan, and have a great day, okay?